Welcome to Gen Z Deep Dive. I'm your host, Aaron Brown, and we are brought to you by the Institute for Generational Dynamics, which focuses on Gen Z and millennials in the workplace, but also the challenges that baby boomers and Gen X face communicating with younger generations. Today, we're going to talk about the fact that Gen Z loves the show Friends. Gen X loves the show Friends on Netflix. It's been streaming for a few years now, and Gen X is the largest. They are the largest streamer of the show. But Marta Kauffman, the show Friends co-creator, was interviewed at the Tribeca Film Festival on the heels of the show's 25th anniversary. Can you believe it's been that long since Friends came out? Kauffman told the story of how her 20-year-old daughter didn't even know her mother created the show. Kauffman's daughter and her friends love Friends. And as many of you remember, the show went to Netflix a few years ago, as we mentioned. When Gen Z high schoolers saw the show, they thought it was a period piece. In essence, Gen Z thought the show was made now in the 21st century, 2018, 2019, but took place in the 1990s. When Friends came out in 1994, the first Gen Zers were just buns in the oven. As many of you know, Gen Z birth years began in 1995. So Gen Z may have assumed Friends was a period piece, but Gen Z lacks the insight of what the show meant to Gen X, to their parents. Gen Z's parents are Gen X, so they kind of lack the perspective of why was this show so fun and engaging and entertaining for Gen X, who, as I mentioned, are the largest streamers of the show. Furthermore, to get into a few generational dynamics, millennials analyze the show through today's politically correct lens, and they analyze it through a lens of intersectionality. Often, millennials see the show as homophobic, too white or Caucasian, and out of touch with economic stressors. What I think is really interesting is that Gen Z finds the show unrealistic. Gen Z, when they watch the show, they ask these questions. Why isn't there more focus on the careers of the characters? They seem to live these great lives, and we don't understand how or why they're successful. And these kinds of questions, they provide insight into how the mind of Gen Z works. Essentially, Gen Z expects, to some degree, for television to provide keys to success. Boomers, Gen X, and cusper millennials like myself would simply mock the show for being unrealistic, but enjoy the escape from reality the show is meant to elicit. If you're creating media for Gen Z, don't focus on helping Gen Z escape. As much as you're connecting them to your media, you want them to perceive that the media is believable. And this is interesting given that Gen Z has grown up on a steady diet of dystopic media, like the Hunger Games, which is a little bit of a millennial cusper thing, the Divergent series. Yes, that's it, the Divergent series. And so make sure that you're connecting them to believable points. They need to believe and be able to see that characters are living out these believable lives, whereas the rest of us just want to escape from the doldrums of incessant 24-hour news cycles. For some, the show is sexually charged, but it also begs the question: why would Gen Z think Friends is a period piece? Maybe it's due to a lack of technology in the show. The characters Ross, Joey, Chandler, none of them meet via social media apps. They all just are friends and they meet organically. The only exception would be for Ross answering a printed roommate ad in a newspaper. Who even puts ads in the newspaper anymore? Instead of casually meeting each other and then friending each other on Facebook, which is a millennial habit, or following each other on Instagram, these individuals meet through real life connections and interactions, things that don't really happen outside of the high school experience for Gen Z. Now, remember, Friends is really a Gen X product for Gen Xers. It contains elements of the Gen X ethos. If you want to be successful, you have to work hard. Life sucks, but it's also fun. You have to figure out life with the help of your friends. There's hope, and everything will work out in the end. The content of Friends is different in contrast to the material Gen X puts out for Gen Z now. Again, the world tends to be a little dystopic. It's not hopeful like Harry Potter. And don't take risks like the cast of Friends, whether it be for career or for romance. And this is really interesting because we're also seeing shows on HBO, and the name of that show is escaping me. But we're also seeing shows that talk about the sexualization of Gen Z, and it's trying to be portrayed as real life. And in reality, sex outside of marriage and teenage birth rates are down compared to previous years. They're down with Gen Z. So it's interesting how the media is approaching marketing to Gen Z and maybe even not listening to what it is that Gen Z really wants. They want to see shows of people and understand how they're being successful in their careers, because Gen Z, to some degree, feels like they live in an uncertain world and very much want a roadmap to success for their lives. So Friends, a period piece, is just a little too unrealistic for Gen Z to buy into.